Hello everybody, this is Dr. Flight. Hope you're doing great. This video lecture is fairly brief, and we talk about media pros and cons. When we talk about media, what we're talking about are the different tools and vehicles that are available to a marketer to be able to send or broadcast a message upon. So there are lots of different ways we can get a message out to our audience, and they may include things like print advertising and TV and radio and promotions and things like that. However, each of these have benefits and detriments that are associated with them in terms of delivering message. So what we have in this video, again, it's a series of tables that outlines the pros and cons of these different techniques. So you can use this as a reference more than anything else to go back and forth to help reinforce the positive aspects and then the negative aspects of a lot of different tools that we have available to us. So again, this is more of a reference piece more than anything else, and you want to review it. You can obviously pause it. If you have access to the text, you can review this in the text as well. All right, good luck. Hope to hear from you soon. Thank you. Hey everybody, Dr. Flight, looking forward to spending a little bit of time talking about the pros and cons of different media choices. Different mediums are available to you, and when we talk about media, we're talking about the vehicle or the element that's going to carry a message from the sender to the receiver. So we create a message, and then what we want to do is we want to select the media or media and mediums that will that will overlap or carry over or have some coverage, if you will, within our market segments. So we want to know what our market segments are going to be listening to or hearing. We want to know where they're getting information, and then we want to make sure that we put our message in front of them using that information. So when we're choosing different mediums, we want to consider certain elements that will be important to us. And this is kind of out of, communications. It's also out of just general advertising, kind of know-how. We want to know what the habits are of the audience. So again, what type of media does our audience listen to? Do they hear? Where is our audience going to come in contact with our actual product, from a communication standpoint? We also want to think about our product and our service or the behavior that's going to be communicated. So depending on the type of product or the type of service or the type of offer we're making, some lend themselves better to TV, some lend themselves better to a face-to-face demonstration, and others are more thoughtful and you need to think about them more. So demonstrating, visualizing, and explaining content might be done well in a one-to-one sales, like personal persuasion type of a thing, like a sales call. You could do a lot of visualization on TV, of course. You could do some comparisons on TV. You could show the effects of a product on TV. If you're the American Cancer Society and you want to visually show the effects of smoking, you may show a black lung, and on TV, that's pretty powerful. You can play out storytelling on television. You can do all kinds of stuff like that are visual and show interactions between people. Interactions between people are not as clearly demonstrated on radio or in print. However, on print, for instance, though, you can go into a lot more technical detail where people are reading and concentrating, and it's a self-paced media so that people take their time and they can read something and understand it. So the type of product that you have may lend itself better to some mediums as opposed to others. Another consideration would be your message. So whether the message is easy to understand or requires more detail. Again, print is good for higher involvement, like longer thought processes. So if deep thought is needed, then targeted magazines or direct mail is a good thing to think about. If it's a quick response type of a message or something easy to understand or like a reminder type of a thing, then radio or something like that may work. Billboards are good, again, if it's just a quick reminder message with not a lot of information that's being conveyed. So the type of message that you have, type of product that you have, the habits um, of your constituents, your audience. And one thing we talk about off and on, probably in all of these videos when we talk about advertising, would be cost. The reality is um, communications cost money, and we balance oftentimes the number of consumers we're going to reach with the number of times that we can reach them and the overall effectiveness of the media that we choose. So we want to reach as many people as we can, but we also understand that there's a cost perspective that we have to deal with. So we calculate cost per exposure, and we also have a number called cost per thousand. CPMs is actually the initials for it. And so in media advertising, we actually break down costs every time somebody sees a message, and that's how we justify how much an ad will cost based on how much exposure it provides us. So that's the lingo that we'll need to know, and moving forward, we'll be able to understand. So the remainder of this talk then, on this video is really just a look at different pros and cons associated with different media that we have out there. So we got print, we have newsletters, we have radio, television, outdoor advertising like billboards. What I'm going to do is you can pause this and you can look at these pros and cons yourself and just kind of review when you would want to use print, when you'd want to use radio versus television, outdoor, and so forth. So you can come back to this. You can use this as a guide. You can take notes with this in terms of, what you'd want to do. Print advertising is kind of cool because it lingers a long time. It lasts a long time. Print tends to be kind of expensive. It just is. So, it says there's a cost barrier here, and print tends to be a little bit more expensive. Newsletters don't tend to have a very large circulation. They tend to be hard to get out to a lot of people. That's is what it is. Radio is a super, super, super fragmented medium. So there are lots and lots and lots of radio stations, and people are, like little niches of people listen to different radio stations. So if you want to reach a real targeted audience, you can probably find a radio station for them. The other thing is radio tends to be really inexpensive. The per spot cost for radio can be just dollars. They're really not that expensive. So there's a good way to reach people. Obviously, it's not a visual medium, and it doesn't last. It doesn't have a duration. You hear the message and then it's gone. So there are issues that are, deal with that. Television can be expensive, but it reaches a lot of people. So your per exposure cost is pretty low, but the overall cost tends to be high because you're reaching a lot of people. Even though the exposure costs are low, it adds up when you're reaching thousands and thousands of folks. Outdoor can be expensive, like billboards. You're locked into a position. A key thing about billboards is you can't communicate a lot of information on them. You only have a very, very limited amount of time, seconds, just narrow seconds that people can see your sign because they're driving by it. And so as a result, you're not going to have a lot of time to get a lot of messages across with those. Other mediums, point of purchase displays, direct mail, telephone, circulars, um, computer-based communications, and then we go into other types of interpersonal presentations. Being able to give personal, like one-on-one, uh, like individual sales pitches and things like that. Again, please pause, take a look at these, kind of get a feel for what each of these methods are. We talk about mail, direct. Telephone is kind of interesting because the verbal telephone is kind of gone away, but push telephone, like with text messages and notifications, is on the rise. So it's like a digital field now where it's a handheld phone, but the whole concept isn't that you're calling up asking to speak to somebody, making a cold call, but you're doing these pushes. So the dynamics have changed enormously, but it's kind of a curious thing now that we're dealing with that. So telephone is there for sure. Um, Again, computer-based communications. Um, uh, where would we be without some computer-based or digital platform that every firm has, every organization has nowadays? We have other settings, so specific with group settings. We have informal social networking, things like that. We have presentations in a formal sense, or in a formal clinical presentations or settings as well there too. So again, take a look at these, pause, stop as needed. The point of this is just to give you this information and let you take a look at it. You'll find this information in the textbook as well. So go ahead and just review these things. Be aware of kind of what each one of these things are, and if you can at least with the major communication methods, if we can walk through those and understand those, that would be great. So we started with medium choice questions. And specifically, we looked at things like what are the habits of your audience, being aware of those. What is the nature of your product and what type of message are you trying to communicate? Is it super, super detailed? Is it something that is easily understood with little verbiage and so on? And then we had this idea of cost. Cost, again, is tied into how many people you're trying to reach and how frequently you're trying to reach it, and the frequency, and also how effective the medium is for your specific purpose. So be aware of that. Then we had a whole list of these different medium choices, pros and cons of each. We had 3 separate full pages of those that we walked through. Didn't spend a lot of time with those, but again, I just want to have this out there for you so that you can get a flavor for all the different advertising choices that you have, communication choices that you have within advertising, and the mediums that are there for you. So let me know if you have any questions. Glad I was able to bring this to you. Have a great day, and yeah, let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.